Shabbat Shalom, brothers and sisters. I'm Moreh Rapha'Yah. We're going to start this Torah portion. It happens to be the last portion or Torah portion this book of Genesis, Bereshit. So let's start off. Here in this Torah portion, we are going to find out something very interesting. And this has a lot to do with us. It has a lot to do with the blessing that our father Yaakov Yisra'yl gave to our forefathers on that deathbed. And not only that, this one transcends over the years until now. I truly believe that we have so much advantage. When I say advantage, I mean that we have a lot to learn from the Torah, a lot to learn how we can convey the word of our Creator, the words of our Mashiach. Nowadays, we have the double portion, and that's what we're going to see today. As far as the Torah is concerned, I truly believe that there is so much that we can actually find out what our father Yaakov gave to our forefathers that time during the reign of Yosef. So let's start off, and this once again has a lot to do with us. So please, I advise you to have pen and paper to write a lot of things, or to watch this video more than one time, because there's so much that we will cover, and hopefully we have enough time to share all this with you. So let's start off. Parashat Wayehi. Wayehi means, and he lived. In this Torah portion, we're about to find out what happens after 17 years. And let's just find out right away. Number 12 of the Torah portion, Genesis of Bereshit 47:28 all the way to 50:26. That's where it closes this book. Wayehi Yaakov. And Yaakov lived in the land of Misraim, or Egypt, for 17 years. Therefore, Yaakov lived 147 years. So real quick, we're just going to stop real quick here. Here we find out something amazing, because when he arrived, or when our father Yaakov entered into the land of Egypt, was 130. If you add 17 years more, he was literally 117 years when he died. Now the interesting thing is that 17, it really yields to something amazing, because 17 years is how Yosef was when he was sold to Egypt. So let's just find out here. 37 verse 2 of Genesis. When Yosef, he was 17 years old, he used to lead in his father's flock. Now, this is what happened when he left to watch out for his brothers, and that's why he was sold to, we already seen the previous Torah portions, he was sold to Egypt. But if you want to watch that video, please go back into the video arcade and watch that video. You'll find out so much details on how that happened. But going back to the 17 years, what the Creator is doing here with our father Yaakov is that all those years that he lost not seeing his son because he was in Egypt, Yahweh is giving him 17 years, which is the entire time that from the moment that Yosef was born until he was sold to the Egyptians. He's giving him 17 years more to his life, so he can spend with his sons and grandkids. So once again, there's so much how the Creator does, not only with our fathers, but we see this principle, we see this pattern in the Torah and the prophets, and all has a lot to do how the Creator managed time and space, how he managed, how we always said, how the scripture says, Ecclesiastes 1:9, what it was, it will be again. It always going to see that format that principle in the scriptures. Let's continue. 47:29 of Genesis. The time came when Yisra'yl was nearing death, like this, who sent for his son Joseph and said to him, if you truly love me, please put your hand under my thigh, and you will perform rachem, which is pity towards me, and they will not bury me in Egypt. This is a huge request that Yisra'yl asked Joseph not to leave him in Egypt. And the reason for it is because it was already predestined that as far as Joseph, as far as Yisra'yl, needed to be buried in the cave of Machpelah, because that's where our father Abraham bought that place for, to be buried there. And that's one of the greatest requests that Yaakov asked for it. Now, as far as, let's go back over here, put your hand under my thigh is basically means under the reproductive system, which is, we're talking about the under the peanuts. And the reason for it is because we in the West, we don't understand this kind of custom. And the reason for it is because we're from the Greco-Roman mind, from the West. We don't, unless we understand the custom of our forefathers, then we understand why. But let me explain you why. The reason for it, and this is just not one time, it happens many times where our forefathers did this. Under my thigh means, remember what our forefathers did, and what we do is we do the circumcision in the 8th day. What he meant is that he needed to do that. He needed to put his hand under. Why? Because just as the covenant, which is the Brit Milah, which is the covenant of their circumcision, is very important between us and the Creator, he's saying to his son Joseph, just as well, this circumcision is very important for me and the Creator. It is also for you and me to make this covenant. Just as well, my covenant with their circumcision, that's how serious it is. So it was a covenant that he's making with his son, not to leave him there, which means he cannot break it. That's how serious it was. Let's continue. 48 verse 5 of Genesis. Now your two sons that were born here in the land of Mizraim or Egypt before I came to you in Mizraim, they are mine. Ephraim and Manasseh will be so mine as Reuben and Shimeon are. Now let's make the comparison between those two. Is the reason for it is because if you guys remember in the previous Torah portions, we learned that Reuben desecrated his father's bed. Shimeon was, on the other hand, with Levi, he was very atrocious. He was very wild. Remember when they went to Shechem and they killed all those men who did the circumcision? They were really wild. So those two, his father, are saying, these two are very wild. So therefore, I'm going to have to take them out from their blessing. And just as Reuben had, past tense, the firstborn right, okay, now I will give it to one of these kids. In this case, it happens to be Ephraim. Now, let's continue. And let's give you a few references. First Chronicles 5:1. The sons of Reuben, the firstborn of Yisra'yl, he was the firstborn, but as he desecrated his father's bed, his birthright was given to the sons of Joseph, the son of Yisra'yl, but not in such way that he will be considered in the genealogy as the firstborn. You see this? So Joseph, he happens to be the firstborn, but he gave it to someone. Let's continue. Look at what it says in the book of Yasher 36:15. At that time, the portion of the birthright, together with the royal office and kehunot, which is the priesthood, was taken from the sons of Reuben, because he had profaned his father's bed. And look at what happens here. And let me stop here for a moment. And I want you to know that every firstborn had the right, it had the attribute of Melchizedek. Melchizedek, remember that it was Shem. It was passed on to Abraham. From Abraham was passed on to whom? To Yitzhak. Yitzhak was passed on to who? To who do you think it was? It was passed on to his next son, okay, which happens to be Yosef. Okay, from Yosef, then we see here, I'm sorry, for Yaakov, I take it back, I'm sorry, Yaakov, and from Yaakov, his father, he took this portion to Reuben because he happens to be the firstborn. He gave it to Yosef. And now because these three attributes of Melchizedek, of the firstborn, he had that three attributes, which is the kehunah, which is happens to be the priesthood, and then the kingship as a king, and also the prophet. Those three attributes were basically split into the rest of the kids. And I want you to see this, please. The birthright was given to Joseph. The royal office of the priesthood, of the kinghood, was given to Yehudah, our Jewish brothers, and the kahuna, or the priesthood, was given to the Levites. That's how it was split until the King Mashiach nowadays. Just a clear picture of how if you can see this, Melchizedek had three attributes. That's why he has a higher attribute rather than Levites. It was given to Yehudah as a melech or king. It was given to Yosef as a prophet, Nevi, and also it was given to the priesthood, to Levites. It was split into those three. First Chronicles 5:2, for Yehudah became the greater than his brothers, since a prince proceeds from him. We understand he happens to be all the kings, and he came from him. Nevertheless, the birthright went to who? To Yosef. And that's how we know that that birthright belonged to Yosef, because the scriptures gives us the evidence of everything that we needed to know. Genesis 48 verse 8, and then Yisra'yl saw Joseph's sons and asked, who are these? Joseph answered his father, they are my sons, whose Ayil Almighty has given me here. Yaakov replied, I want you to bring them here to me so that I can bless them. Now let's pause here for a moment, brothers and sisters. I want you to know that Yisra'yl, he happens to be blind, not only because of his age, but also because he was always weeping. He was always crying because his sons lost. Remember that he assumed that a wolf devoured him, but in reality we know that he was sold to Egypt. But because of the old age and his eyes were dull, we know that he couldn't see. So basically, he could not see his children nor Joseph. But Yahweh, remember this, Yahweh always gives a prophet the ability to not only see with the physical eye, but see with the future, because he's a prophet. He can actually foresee the future of our fathers. And that's what he saw here. He couldn't recognize his kids. He couldn't recognize that his kids were changed in the future. Remember, he's looking at his genealogy, the northern kingdom. But I want you to see something. 48 verse 10, now Yisra'yl's eyes were dull because of old age. Now, he said, bring them to me so I can hug them. We see something very interesting here, because if he was old and he couldn't see he stopped for a moment. He actually paused. He was not going to give the blessing to them, both of them, because he couldn't recognize them. Why he couldn't recognize them? I mean, the question, we always have to ask questions like this. He had 17 years to live with them, to see them almost every day. Why can he recognize them for 17 years? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. So here we see something encoded in the Torah, and what's encoded here is that the word for ra'ah in Hebrew, which is to look, is he was actually foreseeing the future of the northern kingdom. I want you to see this. 48 verse 11, Yisra'yl said to Joseph, look, I haven't been deprived to see your face, but Allah Almighty has allowed me to see your Sarah too. So here we see that the Creator was able to give him the ability to see him for the last time, and also his kids' future, the northern kingdom. I want you to see something, okay? 2nd of Kings 17 verse 16, they abandoned all the mitzvot or commandments of Yahweh Allah Almighty. They made image in the molten metal, even 2 calves made of Asherah, worshipped the whole army of the heavens, and served Baal. You see how the northern kingdom was very, very disobedient, very idolaters. Our forefathers were like that, and we don't have to go that far. We were too. We come from a very background, very idolatrous background, say as a drunk, fornicator, or anything that breaks Yahweh's commandments. We come from that arena. So no wonder why our forefathers were like that, because we following the same pattern, the same formula. That was before that our Creator brought us back to his Torah. Verse 17, they passed through fire their sons and daughters, and used divination and sorcery, and they set about doing what was wicked in the eyes of Yahweh, provoking him. 18, Yahweh was very angry with Yisra'yl. Who were they? The northern kingdom. So that's how we see, and that's how we know that our forefathers were very, very disobedient. Verse 9, Joseph answered his father, they are my children that Almighty has given me here. Yaakov, he answered, I want you to bring them here to me so I can bless them. Here we can see that even though he paused for a moment, brothers and sisters, he was able to give them the blessing. Even though he foresaw the future, he kind of hold up for a moment to see what's going on here. He saw that the disobedience of our forefathers, and yet he still gave them a blessing that it was passed on to all of us until now. Let's continue. 49 verse 1, then Yaakov called his sons and said, assemble yourselves, and I will tell you what will happen in the world in the Acharei Hayamim, which is the last days. Once again, as I just mentioned a few moments ago, our fathers, in the case of Yaakov, Yisra'yl, he happens to be a prophet just like Joseph. And not only that, they were able to see, prophets were able to see the future. Yahweh have given them the ability to see the future in a very linear way. He saw the Acharei Hayamim, which is the last days. And let's find out what he saw. Let's go into Targum Jerusalem 49 verse 1. And our fathers Yaakov called his sons and said unto them, assemble yourselves, and I will teach you what is hidden and in the secret mysteries, the reward of the word of the righteous, and the punishments of the wicked, and the blessedness of Eden, and the 12 tribes of Yaakov gathered together and surrounded the golden bed on which our father Yaakov lay. desiring what we will teach them with blessings and comfort. Then the secret that had been hidden from him was revealed, and the door that was being closed to him was open. Our father Jacob turned and blessed his sons, and each one blessed him according to his good deed. When the 12 tribes of Jacob gathered together and surrounded the golden bed on which our father Jacob laid, they expected him to make them know to the order of blessings and comfort, for they hid themselves from him. Our father Jacob answered and told them, from Abraham my father's father came to a profane Ishmael and all the sons of Keturah, and for Yitzhak my father arose the profane Esau, my brother, and I fear that there are men among you whose heart is separated from his brothers to go and worship before strange idols. The 12 tribes of Jacob all answered together and said, Shema Yisra'yl, our father, Yahweh our Ayil Almighty, Yahweh is Echad one. And Jacob our father answered and said, Blessed be his great name forever and ever. Now we happen to find out where the Shema comes. Shema Yisra'yl, Yahweh Borenu, Yahweh Echad. It comes that we recite every day in our prayers or before we go to bed. Deuteronomy chapter 6 verse 4. We've happened to find out that here is what the origin of the Shema. When our father was about to die, this is what our forefathers said to our father Jacob. It is something for us to understand that when we recite this, is telling our father Yahweh that he is only Echad, not many, only one that we worship. Okay, let's continue. Now I want you to take notes, brothers and sisters, please, and I want you to see this. Book of Acts 1:6. And so those who had gathered did not cease to ask him, saying, Master, will you restore the kingdom of Yisra'yl at this time? And the reason why I bring this, brothers and sisters, is because I want you to take a pen and pencil, as you probably may already have, and I want you to see something that I want you to be part of the sharing in this very moment, that a lot of things are hidden and a lot of things that our Mashiach said in his parables are pertain to us in a very such matter that are encoded in the scriptures, but we need to understand, because once again the blessing that Yahweh gave our fathers in the case of Manasseh and Ephraim, remember that he crossed his hands, that was a double portion to Ephraim. We, Ephraim, the northern kingdom, we have the double portion and we don't realize it. And the reason for it is because we keep looking at our Jewish brothers thinking that they have the rod, they have the scepter, but they don't have the scepter anymore. Our Mashiach has it now. When he came in the first century, this is what happened. He took the scepter, the rod, the authority. Our Jewish brothers don't have it anymore. They think they have it, but they don't. And also the firstborn right. We have it. Ephraim has it. If you don't believe me, go in the scriptures and look for yourself. You'll see that in the northern kingdom, Ephraim has the firstborn. We have the double portion. Remember, the firstborn has a double portion. We have the double chokmah, the double understanding, and we don't use it. Our Mashiach is our advantage, but we need to take advantage of it. And I want you to see this, what's coming next. This is what they asked our Mashiach, when will you restore the northern kingdom? Okay, our Mashiach said it's not for you to know. Look at what it says here in 1 Peter 1:10, the prophets who prophesied of this gift of salvation destined for you to examine and diligently inquire about it. See, our forefathers, they saw the future. They inquire when our Mashiach will come. but it was uncovered at such a point when he will come. They knew it was coming, but just didn't know when. Verse 12, and it was revealed to them when they spoke about these things, that their service was not for their own benefit, but for yours. And these same things have been proclaimed to you by those who communicated the good news to you by means of the Ruach Kodesh, the inspiration of Yahweh, commanded from the heavens. Even the angels long to see these things. Why? Because it was given to our fathers to pass on through the latter days until now. Look what it says here, where Mashiach began his service, and part of his ministry was around this place. 4:12 of Matthew, when Yeshua heard that Yohanan had been put in prison, he returned Galilee. Why Galilee is very important, we'll find out. In these days, 2 Kings 15:29, in these days, Pechat, the king of Yisra'yl, Tiglath-Pileser, the king of Assyria, came and took Ichon, Abel-Bet, Matchat, Yachonoach, Kadesh, Chazor, Gilead, and Galilee, and all the land of Naphtali, and they removed them to Assyria. We see that the reason why our Mashiach comes and he starts his service, his ministry around the area of Galilee, is because that's where in the northern kingdom became to exile to Assyria. Our fathers began on that area around to exit the land of Yisra'yl. Our forefathers were scattered around the world, and now we are returning back to Yahweh. The question is, why is it that our Mashiach began there? It's because the same place where our fathers were removed and exiled to Assyria, our Mashiach is beginning his ministry to begin the restoration, in other words. Let's continue. Look at what it says here. I just don't want you to think that I'm making this up. Look what it says here, Matthew 4:13. But he left Nazareth and came to live in Capernaum, in a village on the shores of the lake, near the borders between Zebulun and Naphtali. This happened so that the prophet Yisra'yl, or Isaiah, said it might be fulfilled. The land of Zebulun, the land of Naphtali, towards the lake beyond the Jordan, the Galilee of the Goy and the nations. You see that? And why do you think it's called like that, brothers and sisters? Is because our fathers began the exile to Assyria, to scatter around the world. Now our Mashiach is begin the restoration in the same place they were scattered to begin with. Verse 16, the people who lived in darkness now see the great light. Upon those who live in the region under the shadow of death, the light was dawned. You see that now is one of the reasons since the very first century when Mashiach was around and was giving the good news to our forefathers. Now he's doing it to us. And we are also seeing the light of the Torah. We have to be thankful that our Creator is doing this to us, because it's not everybody sees the light. We got to be grateful that we are able to see the good news of the Mashiach, of the Torah, and that we are continuously seeing more truth as we go along. Matthew 4:23, Yeshua went all over Galilee, teaching all in his synagogues, proclaiming the good news of the kingdom, healing the people of all kinds of diseases. And this is what we see here. The main key point is diseases. We're going to find out what happened here, brothers and sisters, okay? Because it's something that I want you to see. And look what it says here, Acts 1:5, 1:11. These men, the men said to you Galileans, this is where our Mashiach went up in heaven. Two men stood by them. There were angels. And this is what he said to them, to you Galileans. Why? Because they were from the northern kingdom, brothers and sisters. Okay, for the northern kingdom they lived. And this is why they were trying to inquire with them, are you going to restore the northern kingdom this time? No, it's not for you to know this. Okay, look what it says, verse 7. Mashiach said, Acts 1:7, and he answered them, you do not need to know the times or the dates which Abba has kept under his own authority. It wasn't the right time. It wasn't the time for restoration, but we'll see when is the right restoration. And I want you to see it in a very peculiar way, which is a parable that our Mashiach talks about it in the case of Eleazar, which is Lazarus. Please write this down, brothers and sisters. John 1:11. There was a man who had fallen ill. His name was Eleazar, Lazarus. He was from Bethany, the village where Miriam and her sister Martha lived. There were 3 siblings, Lazarus, Miriam, and Martha. And we'll see what happens in their life, and we'll see what happens, what's encoded in this parable. Eleazar or Lazarus means the Almighty is helped. Okay, so we see this name is very, very common because we see that Eleazar happens to be one of the servants of Abraham. Remember that he went and fetched a new wife for Yitzhak. He happens to be another Eleazar. So Eleazar or Lazarus happens to be a very familiar name. Let's see what the gematria says in Eleazar, which is 318. Ra'ev is hunger. Bush means shame in Hebrew for the gematria 318. Heker, which means to find. Shub means to return. Remember that repentance. Ba'ash means to stink. All this involves in the number 318. And of course, Eleazar. Now, let's go into the book of John 11:5. And Yeshua loved Martha and her sister Miriam and Eleazar. There were 3 siblings and he loved them. We see something similar here in the book of Deuteronomy 7:8. Rather, it was because Yahweh loved them and because he wanted to keep the promise he made with their fathers. This is one of the reasons why our Creator loved us. Is because we have a beautiful face, or because we take our shower, or because we eat well. None of that. The reason why he loved us is because he's keeping his promise to our forefathers. And that promise goes from generation to generation. That is the reason why. John 11:1, the scripture says that he fallen ill. Now let's see what happens here, what's encoded in the word ill or sick. Jeremiah 8:22, there was no balm in Gilead. Is there no healer there? Why then he has the healing of the daughter of my people not come? Why is it that there is no healing? That's what the Jeremiah is. And the reason why, brothers and sisters, is because this kind of sickness is not an outer sickness. It's not an exterior sickness. It's an inner sickness. It's something that has a lot to do with our neshama or our nefesh, our soul. It has to do with how we are with the Creator. There's a lot of things that we do, or a lot of things that we want to do, but it's not how we intended to. We have two natures, which is the Yetzer Hara, which is the evil inclination, and which we have the Yetzer Hato, which is the good inclination. And this is one of the reasons why the northern kingdom went to idolatry. That's the kind of illness or sickness that our fathers had. I want you to see this, and please take notes, brothers and sisters. Hosea 5:13. Ephraim saw his sickness, and Yehudah his wound. Ephraim went to Ashur and sent ambassadors to a warrior king, but cannot heal you or wound you. See this? This is one of the reasons, brothers and sisters, we see that the sickness that Ephraim had was for death. One thing is sickness, and our Jewish brothers in southern kingdom had a wound. Wound can be healed. Okay, it's not to death. It can be healed. But a sickness is for death. And this is what the northern kingdom had. Because of their disobedience, death will come. Matthew 9:11, when the Pharisees saw this, they said unto their disciples, "Why does your rabbi eat with tax collectors and sinners?" Verse 12, but Yeshua heard the question and answered, "Those who need a physician are not really healthy, but rather sick." And this is the reason why Mashiach came to us too as well, because we needed a healer. Okay, because we were sick, we were dead, in other words. Something needed to be done. It wasn't just a little wound. No, we were really, really sick. And that's what the Mashiach did in those times. Even people who were, like, remember the leprosy, it was for total death. And yet, they were healed by our Mashiach. John 11:18, Bethania is 2 miles from Jerusalem. Here we see something important, because Bethania means, and let's break it down, these words. Bethania, it means the house of the sickness. Medium means rebellious. Okay. Martha in the Chaldean language means she is rebellious. Okay. Now let's go into 11 verse 4 of John. Now we know their meaning. Let's find out in each one of them how this works. Here in this, the disease will not end in death. That's what Mashiach heard of Lazarus. No, it is for the kabod, or the esteem of Yahweh, so that the Son of Yahweh can receive honor or esteem through it. And this is what the reason why our Mashiach did not heal them right away. I want you to see something very important, brothers and sisters. 39 verse 21 of Ezekiel. Thus will I exhibit my esteem among the nations, so all the nations might see my judgment when I execute it, in my hand when I lay on them. The house of Yisra'yl shall know that I am Yahweh their Almighty from that day forward. This is one of the reasons why our Creator allowed these things to happen. This is one of the reasons why He allowed our forefathers to go into the nations to learn their lesson. But nevertheless, will not forget about them, but rather bring them back. And that's what's happening nowadays. In these latter days, He's returning us, to all of us, to Torah. And that's what He says, the northern kingdom. I will exhibit my esteem, my honor to them. Okay? And exactly what the Mashiach did with Lazarus. I'm waiting for this, for the right moment, so I can exhibit this to him, through him. John 11:6. So when he heard that he was sick, he stayed where he was for how many days, brothers and sisters? 2 days. He delayed 2 days. He did not go straight to where he was. He delayed 2 days. Let me ask you something, brothers and sisters. How many thousands of years our Mashiach is being away from us? 2,000 years. It's almost 2,000 years, and Mashiach is almost returning back. This is one of the reasons why Mashiach delays, because there is always a reason for it, and that reason is for us to come back to our Father Yahweh. 2,000 years, Yeshua was sold to by Yehudah, our Jewish brothers, to the nations, Edom, the Christian world. Remember, and I want to remind you, this is from the previous Torah portions. Remember when the Mashiach was sold by 30 pieces of silver. Remember that Yehudah or Judah, he gave back the coins to the Sanhedrin. Sanhedrin didn't put back to the treasury, but rather bought the potter's field. The potter's field happens to be the field of the Goy and the field of the nations or the Gentiles. Our Mashiach was sold to the nations for 2,000 years, and he's been there until now. And this is something that we're not making it up. Even our Jewish brothers knows about this. That our Mashiach will come back from Edom, not from Jerusalem. He will come out from there. Because right now, until now, they have dressed up just like Joseph in Egypt. People cannot recognize him. Even our Jewish brother cannot recognize him because he has this Christian Pope looking guy that he doesn't look nothing like a Jew, nothing like a Hebrew. John 11:7. Then after this, he said to his Talmidim, his disciples, let's go back to Yehudah. And this is one of the reasons why he will come back to our Jewish brothers. But in the meantime, something's happening. Ezekiel 39:23, and all the nations will know that the house of Yisra'yl, the northern kingdom, went into exile because of their iniquity, because they broke their faithfulness with me. Like I hid my face from them. This is one of the reasons why our Mashiach hasn't returned. This is one of the reasons why it needed for us to return to our Father Yahweh through the Torah to our real Mashiach. That's why he hasn't come back. That's why he has hid his face. But there's always a limit time, and that time is coming very near. Ezekiel 39:25, therefore Yahweh Almighty says this, now I will restore the fortunes of Jacob, I will have compassion in the entire house of Yisra'yl, and I will be jealous for my name, set apart, Kadosh. You see this is one of the reasons why he's going to restore this from us, okay? And this is one of the reasons why we need to take advantage of the double chutmah, the double portion that Yahweh has given us, which is the double understanding. Verse 28, then they will know that I am Yahweh Almighty, I yield, since it was I who caused them to go into exile among the nations. That it was I who gathered them into their own land, and I won't leave anyone there anymore. Now, I want you to see, and please take notes, brothers and sisters, that every time we read prophecies like this, some are partial, meaning that our Mashiach will fulfill the other portion when he returns. In this case, when he says, I will gather them in their own land, that will happen when the Mashiach returns. In the meantime, we are returning. We're coming back to Yahweh. We're returning to Torah. Let's go back to the parable. 11:14. So Yahushua told them in plain language, Lazarus is dead. And for your sake, I am glad that I wasn't there, that you may come and trust by your going to him. And this is one of the reasons why Mashiach did this, because they needed to give him a space so he can honor something amazing. When this happened, when Lazarus was risen, something happened amazing. And this once again has a lot to do with prophecy as well. 10:38-42, but which is going to read 38 and 39 of Luke. On the way, Yeshua and his Talmidim came to the village where a woman named Martha received him in her home. She had a sister named Miriam who also sat on the master's feet and heard what he said. Now, it is very important, brothers and sisters, because Martha is another term for the house of Yisra'yl, the northern kingdom, Ephraim. And Miriam is another term or terminology for the house of Judah, our Jewish brothers. If you notice here, it is something that we need to know, that we always want to follow the Mashiach, okay? But we're gonna find out the two difference between these two sisters. 40, verse 40. But Martha was so busy with all the work to be done, so up to him, he said, Master, don't you mind that my sisters have left me alone to do all the work? This is what Miriam is saying to the Master, Yeshua. Martha is doing all the work. She's just doing, busy, getting busy, all that, but she's not with the machine. She's not with, doing the Torah, in other words. And the reason for it is because Martha, the house of Yisra'yl, the northern kingdom, were being busy with the world, with the secular world, with idolatry, drunkenness, with drugs, with doing all kinds of stuff except to Torah. We've been so busy with the world, we totally forgot about the Torah. We don't even know what Torah is, and that's why we've been so inner in ourselves. On the other hand, Miriam is being home. She's been basically learning Torah the entire time. And that's one of the reasons why we learn so many things from our Jewish brothers. But nevertheless, we need to take advantage of the Torah. And this is what's been happening for the last 2,000 years until the very end, until now. But we're learning better now. Verse 41, however, the master replied, Martha, Martha, you have worried and grieved about how many things. This is what our Mashiach is saying to the house of Yisra'yl. Ephraim, Ephraim, calling us right now. Ephraim, Ephraim, why are you so worried about the world? Why are you so worried about the secular world, about the going about, except for the Torah? Why are you so worried about the things that don't mean anything nowadays in the eyes of Yahweh? And we need to learn better, brothers and sisters. Verse 42, but there one thing that is essential. Miriam has chosen what was right and will not be taken away from her. This is why our Jewish brothers are been doing it for 2,000 years, which is Torah, 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 and no one is going to take that away from them. They doing the right thing. We need to learn a little bit from them, brothers and sisters. We need to learn how to be more right in the eyes of Yahweh, more strict, more in ourselves, leaving the world behind. Jeremiah 3:7, I said that after she has done all these things, she had come back to me, but she has not returned. Meanwhile, her beautiful sisters, Yehuda, has been watching. Do you see that? Here we see something very amazing, because once again, we see little verses here, little verses here. The truth is here, the truth is there. We see how the Creator is showing us that our Jewish brothers, they've been keeping Torah for a long time, and we are being away doing our own thing, which is not Torah. All is vain, is vanity, brothers and sisters. And the reason why is because we didn't want anything with the Creator, but now the time is come that we need to seek for the Creator. Verse 8, and I watch for all the causes on which the apostate Yisra'yl committed adultery and sent her away, and I gave the writ of her divorce to her. Yet her treasured sister, Yehuda, did not fear, but she also went and fornicate. Not only, brothers and sisters, two houses, the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom actually sinned, but also the one who had sort of repentance was the southern kingdom, and they returned. They were like half and half, but they're still, keeping Torah. But nevertheless, if you compare the southern kingdom with the northern kingdom, the northern kingdom was totally atrocious, totally rebellious, and that's one of the reasons why our Father Yahweh sent her away to the nations. Jeremiah verse 3:9, and it happened from the wanting of her harlotry, she defiled the land and committed adultery with the stones and pieces of wood. This is one of the reasons why we come from idolatry, because we follow the same pattern from our forefathers. Verse 10, and yet for all her treasures, sister Yehudah has not returned to me with the whole heart, but with falsehood, says Yahweh. Also, our Jewish brothers, they seem like they're actually doing something, but in their heart are not wholehearted. In other words, they're not completely faithful also as well. And this is what we're seeing also as well today. Verse 12, go and cry these words towards the northern kingdom. Says, return, O apostate Yisra'yl, says Yahweh. I will not cause my face to fall on you, for I am merciful, says Yahweh, and I will not keep anger forever. And this is one of the reasons, brothers and sisters, why we have mercy from the Creator towards us, that we need to take advantage of this mercifulness today. We need to return to Torah. We need to say to our Creator with wholehearted that we need to make a 180 turnaround and come back to our Father Yahweh, to follow the Mashiach's footsteps until he returns, because this is our calling. Bethania, as I said earlier, is the house of poor, misery, afflicted. This is what being afflicted for the entire time, brothers and sisters, with agony, with misery, because of our idolaters past, and it is being passed on from generation to generation. Why we always ask ourselves, why is it my life is so miserable? It's because our historical, past. And this is what is being dragged on from generation to generations. Verse 40, but Martha was busy with all the work to be done. Ephraim, which is Martha, Miriam, which is Yehudah, both of them had different doings. The northern kingdom is being an idolatry. Miriam, Yehudah, is being at home, learning Torah, but it's still a little rebellious. But comparing to the northern kingdom, of course, cannot be compared. Verse 17, 11:17 of John, when they arrived, Yeshua found that Eleazar, Lazarus have already been in the tomb for 4 days. What are those 4 days, brothers and sisters? Those 4 days, there is a meaning for it, and I want you to see it next. 39, Yeshua said, take away the stone. Martha, the sister's sister, said to Yeshua, his body must stink now, for they have passed away 4 days since his death. Who said it? Martha, the northern kingdom. Our brothers and sisters, 4,000 years has passed. That our fathers, until now, our body stinks. Our deed stinks. And the reason for it, because in the eyes of Yahweh, seriously, our righteousness is not even close to the real righteousness and what we think righteousness is. 4,000 years from the covenant that Abraham did until now, things are being on a steep. It's been going down the hill. And the reason for it is because only a handful of people have been keeping the Torah. Only a handful of people are being following our Father. Only a handful of people have been following the old path, but not everyone. That's the thing, and that's what we need to concentrate to bring the whole house of Yisra'yl together in these latter days, and that takes knowledge. 11:20 of John. So when Martha, which is Ephraim, heard Yeshua was coming, she went to meet him. But Miriam, who's Miriam, is our Jewish brothers, continue in Shabbat, which is mourning, sitting in the house. This is what's been happening for the past until this very moment. Our Jewish brothers are being at home, okay, in Shabbat, which is mourning, okay, thinking that Mashiach is going to come. Nope, it's not going to come, according to them. But Mashiach already came. But brothers and sisters, we're not in Shabbat, we're not mourning anymore, because Mashiach already came. We should be happy, we should be rehearsing for the Lamb's wedding. It's coming soon, so we need to wear that wedding garment. Okay, we should be happy. We should be rehearsing before the wedding. I want you to see something, brothers and sisters. 9:15 of Matthew, Yeshua said to them, "Can the guests at the wedding mourn when the bridegroom is still with them? But the time will come when the bridegroom will be taken away from them, and they will fast." This is one of the reasons why our Jewish brothers are doing this right now. They mourning right now, okay? But we're not, because we are the bride, and we're rehearsing right now before the Mashiach comes. 11:24, Martha, Ephraim, said, "Now he will raise us again in the resurrection from the last state." Yeah, the Christian world always concentrate in the future, not in the present. They're always talking about the rapture, which is the bogus, which is a falsehood from the Vatican. And another time we'll bring this up. Brothers and sisters, we have this mentality of the future, but not in the present. The present, what Yahweh wants from us is Shabbat. We need to return, we need to repent to Yahweh with a true hearted, so we can know exactly the will of Yahweh, which is keeping Torah. And this is what the Creator wants from us. Ezekiel 37:9. Then he said to me, "Prophecy to the Ruach, breath, prophecy, Son of man, said to the bones, Yahweh Almighty says, come from the four winds, breath on these dead men that may live." This is what's been happening for the dry bones, brothers and sisters, that we've been dry for many, many years. And now is the time for us to risen. Now is the time for us to revive. Look at what it says here as a prophecy. Hosea 6:2. After 2 days he will revive us. In the third day he will raise us up, and he will live forever. These prophecies, this very prophecy, brothers and sisters, is exactly what's happening right now. It's after 2 days. We already revive us. Whoever is learning right now Torah, he already revived us, brother. And those people who are coming, he will revive them too. Ephraim, that prophecy began to be fulfilled in 1998, or the dry bones. And yet, still more people coming to be revived. But on the third day, it's not here yet. And that third day will come when the Mashiach returns. I want you to see this. After the Mashiach first event took place, okay, is being after 2 days. This is the first day, and this is the second day. We're living in the 6,000 year right now, 6,000 millennium. And the 7th millennium, this is going to be the third day, brothers and sisters. And this, as soon as the Mashiach returns here, brothers and sisters, then he will resurrect us forever and ever. That's what he says. It will live forever and ever with him. Look at what our Mashiach did. And he cried out to Lazarus. 11:43. Having said this, he cried out, Eliezer, Lazarus, come out. And he did indeed. This is what our Creator is saying to all of us nowadays. Revelation 18:4. Then I heard another voice coming from the heavens saying, come out of it, my people. Come out from where, brothers and sisters? Come out from Babylon. Come out from the world. Come out from Egypt. because it is time for us to claim our birthright. And that birthright, we need to claim it because it's been given to us. It's a double portion that we need to claim. We need to take advantage of what's been given to us, brothers and sisters. Okay? But we need to make an action, and that's your will. You need to willingly give your life to Yahweh. 11:44, the man who had been dead came out, and his hands and feet wrapped strips of linen, and his face covered with cloth. Yeshua said to them, untie him and let him go. There is something encoded here too as well. Look at what it says in Isaiah 64:6. We are all unclean. All our righteousness are menstruation rags. We wither, all of us, like leaves, so with the wind will carry us away. All of us are frail, in other words. We think that our righteousness is something that is amazing, not in the eyes of Yahweh. Our righteousness don't mean anything. It says here there are menstruation rags. You know what I'm talking about, right? It's full of nastiness. Okay? In other words, we should never think that that we have something that we need to claim. No, the only thing we need to claim is Yeshua's blood, his righteousness. That's what we're here for to begin with, because of his righteousness. And because of his righteousness, we need to continue to obey Yahweh's Torah. That's why the Mashiach says this, and please write this down, brothers and sisters. Mashiach said, if you love me, keep my commandments. We tend to think now, brothers and sisters, in the Christian world, that love has a lot to do with human love, when it comes to Yahweh's love. No, brothers and sisters. One thing is love one another, which is the human love, but not emotions towards our Creator. It doesn't work that way. The love towards our Creator, it has a lot to do with obedience. That's what the reasons why Mashiach said, if you love me, keep my commandments. Then later, you see, John says, in these we know that we love Yahweh, that we keep his commandments. This is what it's all about, obedience towards Yahweh. It's not based upon emotions. Emotions don't mean anything to the Creator, but rather obedience. It's all about that. Ezekiel 37:1, and with the hand of Yahweh upon me, Yahweh let me down. His inspiration put me in the middle of the valley, and I was full of bones. He led me in the paths around all of them. There was so many bones lying in the valley, and they were so dry. The word is Yabesh. Let's see what the Yabesh means and who are the bones. Verse 11, then he said to me, Ben Adam, son of man, these bones are the whole house of Yisra'yl. All of us, brothers and sisters. And they are saying, our bones have been withered, dry, Yabesh, and our hope is gone, and we are completely cut off. Brothers and sisters, we never, ever, ever think that we are cut off. Never think that we don't have any hope, because we do. Our Mashiach is our hope. Our Mashiach is the one giving us the momentum to come back to Yahweh. We need to understand and realize that without the Mashiach, we're nothing. We need to realize that it's time for us to wake up, to return to Yahweh, to keep his commandments, to return to Torah, and to claim our birthright, and to use their double chokmah, the double portion, the double understanding. We're almost closing, brothers and sisters. The word for Yabesh means dry, confused, disappointed. And this is what we've been going through for so many years, confused in what we've been learning this whole time. There's no more time, brothers and sisters. We need to wake up. We're closing. I'm Moreh Rapha'Yah. Thank you for your time, and we'll continue next time. And please subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and follow us on Facebook as well. Shabbat Shalom, and we'll see you next time.